Good. Good to go. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Now. Evening and welcome to the regular town council meeting for March 4th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You. Thank you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, adoption of the minutes. So look for a motion from the council to adopt the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2025.
Make a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes on February 18th, 2025.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Is there any comment from the audience or from the council regarding the minutes? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2025, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The meeting minutes have passed. Moving on to item number 5, presentations. Congratulations, introductions. There are none. Moving on to item number 6, public hearings. There are none. Item number 7, reports. Department head reports are in the council package. And Jack, I don't know if you had anything.
I got a few things. Staying busy. We received the paperwork for a housing grant that we were approved for, it looks like in 2024. Which will help us do like a market study, feasibility study for housing opportunities in town. The timing's good to be doing that along with possibly comprehensive planning work. And kind of looking into how we might be able to utilize that as maybe part of doing our comprehensive plan. We also had received a grant from the state for updating our land use ordinance in terms of our housing regulations. The state a few years ago created some requirements for our town's land use ordinances as far as what's permissible for single family homes. It's called LD 2003. And we did receive a grant to make sure that our ordinances are updated to comply. And so we're kind of getting to the end of the window of utilizing that, but we have between now and the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, to kind of get that process going. So a couple of housing grants there. We did advertise our project for the Sebasticook Street Crawford Road culvert project. So we'll get bids back on that April 9th. And we have funding through one of our previous capital improvement programs for that. Been getting started on the budget. Had a department head meeting last week. Got department heads with their budget worksheets, and so we'll be busy this month putting budget proposals together. And we have a budget calendar that for later in the meeting to look at as far as timelines. We are getting close to closing out a firefighter assistance grant that we got from FEMA a while ago. There's one last piece that's for the exhaust system we have in the fire bay, and the one last piece is just a wiring issue to get it hooked up. But once that's done, we'll be able to close that out. I'm told we have a cemetery sexton now. We have our James Allen returning this spring to serve as sexton, and we'll talk about it in the next budget, you know, as far as you know, what kind of, time allotments we wanna have going forward, for that, but I know that was a concern at our last meeting, and getting that position filled. We do have some committee vacancies, and we'll be advertising this week for people who may be interested in filling committee vacancies to, you know, turn in the form and express their interest in those. Russell was indicating that we probably will have a need for an appeals board meeting sometime in the next few months, so it'll be good to get that appeals board vacancies filled. Especially when you just get into the building season and, you know, there's more going on. Airport consultant RFQs that the FAA required us to do, we advertised those a month or so ago, and those are due this week. And then we'll have a recommendation on those once they can be reviewed. And just today, there's a project that the DOT is doing mostly on North Main Street, and down, just a little bit on the southern end of Main Street. And it coincides with the VPI, that section. There's some utility coordination where the way they're gonna change the grade of the road and change the depth to some of our utilities, and where they're gonna put storm drains. We have to move a few of our water and sewer utilities, and so we got more clarity on what we'll have to do, and maybe what the DOT can work around, and so we would have to do. So Annalise will be kind of gathering all that up and making sure that we're on the same page, and that project's ready to go later in the fall. So there's a few things.
Yes,
Good.
excellent. Any questions from the audience or the council or Jack on those issues?
Where do we stand? So we have a new sexton, and so he gets the truck and like some sort of orientation. Are we gonna try to clean the books up for him before he really digs in, or do we have a plan? I gotta believe it's a little overwhelming from his position and coming into kind of a hot mess with all the deeds or not.
Didn't you say it's the one that did it before?
Well, so it's the one that we had last year.
It was a little familiar.
It's coming back.
What did you say his name was though?
James Allen.
James Allen. I just remembered that.
So so should we hire a third party to clean the books up? Or is that gonna be what we expect them to do?
During the budget process, I've been looking into 2 or 3 independent, firms that actually track and do that book work and plot work for us.
Yeah.
There's one, I think it's Simtech, one that I've been really looking at, that can clear it up, so it takes a lot off Nicole's and off the sexton's plate.
Yeah.
A lot of the cemeteries, in the state are using this company or another one. And I think it's probably the best $3,500 that I've quoted that we could spend. They can do all the tracking for us, all the plotting, the mapping. Yeah, it's pretty bulletproof, so I know it's coming out of that trust money, so I think for that management part of it, once we get the deeds cleared up and stuff, I think we'd be crazy not to jump on board. I know Waterville uses them, Skowhegan, Athens, there's a bunch of them use it that are having really good luck. They had some real problems with their stuff, and they've straightened it all out, and got it on the straight and narrow. And especially since they can map and plot out that new piece of property that we bought, just down a little further to help plan for that for the next.
How do you pay them? Do you pay them by the hour, or do you pay them by the season, or
By
by
the year.
the year? Okay. So they'll do the mapping for the additional land under that same $3,500.
That depends, they got 2 or 3 different packages. I think the one that I looked with the map and the stuff was like $3,500, and it's based on the number of burials and the number of things that we've got going on, the plots that we've actually got to be plotted on those maps. So
Right.
I think it's a going forward, it alleviates a lot of responsibility and a lot of liability on our part. They've perfected it.
Okay,
Oh, it's their business, right?
That's what they do. They're the
Something to
experts.
think about.
I think this employee retention wise, if you're the sexton and someone else will take care of all that, all you gotta do is take care of the hands-on stuff.
Heck, yeah.
That's a job that I'd be more willing to accept than, especially if I didn't enjoy the fixing someone else's mistakes for 140 different deeds. Which sounds like a lot of work to me.
And yeah, a lot of handwritten notes and stuff that I throw in on the fly, you know, it's not easy. I mean, the people are approaching you when you're at the cemetery and they're trying to figure stuff out and they're trying to hand you money and trying to do this, and it's just too much.
Yeah.
Alright, we'll address that during the budget season.
Are we, how do we run on that trust? I mean, are we dipping past the interest on that trust, or are we still?
It doesn't look like it to me. I can dig into it a little bit more with Tina, but it looks like we're healthy on that from what I've been able to see.
So it's growing or maintaining, or is it?
It looks like we're using the interest and we're not even all the interest. So
That's great. Maybe, I mean, that's a perfect spot to make it just a little bit easier to.
Yeah.
Without impacting the. Another rate,
Yep,
so.
definitely. Alright, on the housing ordinance, is that gonna be done by the, no, is gonna be done by
I
KV?
thought you were trying to.
No, I was trying to think of the other, group in town here, no, not Pete, Jesus, no. The planning board, is it gonna be done by the planning board, or is it gonna be done by like? the
Well, I
ordinance-
think it's-
The ordinance committee,
So what KV, and I did reach out, and I meant to mention that, I did reach out to KV Cog. They've done these, what they'll do is they'll review the ordinance and they know where the areas are that have to be fixed. There's a lot of commonalities and they've had a lot of these where they look at an ordinance and then they'll bring it into compliance with LD 2003. So they are willing and able to do that work for us, and they would basically sit down with Russell and with the planning board and kind of explain, okay, here's what the regulations say, here's what we say, here's how we can get into compliance, probably 2 or 3 different ways you can do it.
sure,
And so you can just kind of work with the planning board to get something that we wanna vote on.
excellent, alright. Sounds good. Alright, there's no more questions for Jack. Moving on to item number 8, old business, there is none. Moving on to item number 9, new business. Nicole, can you please read resolution 2518?
So that the town council approved setting a date when property taxes are due and payable as Thursday, May 15, 2025.
Look for a resolution from the council.
Make a motion, we adopt resolution 2518.
Second?
Moving second, is there anything you wanna talk about on this, Jack?
So you have the tax commitment forms that our assessor prepared last week, basically. Is these dates and so forth were really right off the timeline that the council and I think Cornell kind of laid out in January how this was gonna go, and so May 15th is right there on the timeline, so we can get the tax bills out. Actually, I mean, we hit mailboxes by the end of this week, and then people have plenty of time to, get their payment in before the due date.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Any questions from the council? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2518, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2518 passes. Moving on to resolution 2519.
Resolved that the town council approved setting the rate of interest to be charged on delinquent taxes for the January 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025 tax bills at 7.5%.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion, we adopt resolution 2519.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions from the audience on resolution 2519? Any questions from the council, Pete?
Yeah,
If you have one.
I did. So I was thinking, because this is gonna be something new, that we might choose to lessen that interest amount. What's anybody else feel about that?
Jack, you mentioned that the 7.5 is the maximum.
Yeah, so the state will publish, the treasurer's office will publish maximum allowable interest rates.
This is gonna be brand new to a lot of people.
You think it's for budgeting reasons? You don't think people had a chance to budget for it? And so we're gonna spring a tax
I
bill on
mean,
them?
some people aren't, so some people have escrows, right, and they're just gonna get an extra bill added to their escrow. But there's other people that are on fixed incomes that,
Don't have that same.
that's not gonna have that same,
Yeah, they're accustomed to paying.
I was wondering about the 7.5, is that standard or, so that's the maximum, okay.
Yeah,
And
and they change it every year.
I don't think we should waive it all the time, but I was just thinking where this is new and brand new and they're gonna be getting an extra tax bill this year that we might lessen that
we don't necessarily waive it for, you know,
every time, but
yeah, the one in November or whatnot, but. A lot of people are accustomed to paying in October, and when they get one in May, they might be a little surprised if they haven't been paying attention or.
Yeah, I wanna make, 7.5% is, I guess that would be enough, but you also don't wanna encourage them. If there's not enough of a slap, you're not.
exactly, yeah, that's why,
Hang on to my money, right?
well, that's why it's only gonna be for this first session, right?
Yeah,
Well, that's all I was thinking.
what do you think of that, Jack?
Yeah, have you ever seen anything other than the max?
I mean, we already have like people that haven't been able to pay their taxes from last year that
Oh,
we
yeah.
saw in our list.
The
that we
last,
got.
yeah,
Well, we had,
4 years.
but
Yeah,
we
yeah,
had quite
no, I
a few
know.
last
Yeah.
year that we.
Yep, yeah, we did, we had.
So maybe we just consider that this one time until we get back on.
Well, that's what I was, it's only for this time right now, and then we could assess it the next time
Yeah,
to see either that didn't work or, yeah, that helped people for this year. I don't think it's something we do all the time, but
So I mean, in the next resolution, we pay them, if somebody overpays, we pay them 3.5%.
right, so I thought we did.
Would it make sense
That's
that we are charging 3.5% the same time?
Yeah, I mean,
Don't know.
I think that's totally, an option that the council has is, the state sets a maximum, you can't exceed the 7.5, you can go lower if you wanted to go lower in this, transition, period that will, not, continue. That's certainly, yes, certainly doable.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
It
I mean, I
makes
think-
sense to me, I think, I'm willing to consider that for the one time, because like you said,
Yeah,
some folks may not totally be up to date on what's going on, might not be prepared. They'll be prepared after they receive their bill, now they'll know.
they're gonna, yeah, right.
I was thinking 5%, but the 3.5 makes sense too.
Right. I mean, $1,000, it's $75, right? So,
So 3.5% if you pay late and 3.5% back to you if you overpay.
That would be, just an amendment to the.
Yeah.
to the resolution.
If people are agreeable, I'll make a motion to amend.
sound good?
Yeah.
I don't think,
That works.
I think
I don't think
that's
it's gonna break the town's, back or.
Well, I think where it's a change is different, people didn't really have a
Yeah.
chance to budget for that change.
Right.
Right,
It's gonna be a bit of a surprise, I think, for some people.
Yeah,
yeah,
But I have heard the comments about the letter that came out, people are noticing and appreciate that,
Oh, for sure.
so
Yeah.
that was.
Good.
Yeah.
good.
Don't want to surprise people, Bill.
not that one.
So I think it's a good suggestion, Pete,
Yeah,
and I
But
think
it
it's
is-
fair.
It's also a remind, if you are escrowed, you might wanna call your bank and say, hey, I need to pay twice this year.
Yeah,
Get that set up with your banking, for the residents, but yeah, Pete, if you'd like to
Yeah, so
amend,
we're, I'd like to make a motion, we amend resolution 2519 to state 3.5% for delinquent taxes for the period of January 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025.
second.
seconded. No other comments from anybody on resolution 2519 as amended? All those in favor of adopting resolution 2519 as amended, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2519 passes as amended. Resolution 2520, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council approves setting the rate of interest to be charged on overpayments for the January 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025 tax bills at 3.5%.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2520.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any comments from the audience on resolution 2520? Any comments from the council on resolution 2520?
Question, so does that mean if we send them an incorrect bill?
You send it, if
So,
you overpay,
That's strange to me. If you send me an invoice and I pay more than that, why should the town have to pay me back more?
I think it's,
I was wondering if that was like an invoicing error or an error on the part of the community member. Is that standard, Jack?
so trying to think of a good example. Some people like to pay by the month, right?
Okay.
And it kind of gets into the next resolution. So some people want to just come in and pay every month. And so January 1, we started another fiscal year and we're actually committing taxes now on this fiscal year. But you have some people that came in January and said, I want to stay paid monthly. So they've paid on an estimate of what this commitment is going to be.
Okay.
And so, or they might have come in and said, you know what, I just want to get my taxes paid off and I'm just gonna pay what we think it's gonna be. So that could result in the overpayment, because then when we actually commit and send the bill out, if they happen to have paid a little bit more than what their bill actually was, because for whatever reason, they needed to get it paid before they got the bill, then we would pay them the interest, you know, that on that interest rate. So it's, the best example is when people are just, they're on a plan, they're paying, they've paid some amount or the whole amount before they got the bill, and they're really paid.
right. Similar to your escrow,
Yeah.
getting money back from your escrow from your bank,
Yeah.
Okay.
right? Any other questions on resolution 2520? Hearing none, and since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2520, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2520 passes. Moving on to resolution 2521, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council authorize the tax collector treasurer to accept prepayment of taxes not yet committed or received prior to the due date and pay no interest thereon for the January 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2025 tax bills.
Look for a motion from the council,
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2521.
Second?
moved and seconded. Are there any questions from the audience on resolution 2521? Are there any questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2521, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2521 passes. Moving on to resolution 2522, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council approve the issuance of a request for proposals for cemetery mowing and maintenance for 2025.
Look for a motion from the council,
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2522.
Second?
moved and
Forgot my job.
seconded. Jack, is there anything you wanted this, we talked about this quite a bit last meeting.
Yeah, so based on the discussion from the last meeting and our wanting to put the mowing back on the board. I got with Donnie and talked through, you know, what sort of the experience was last year and how maybe some of the wording could clarify and make things go smoother this time around. And I shaded on here a couple of changes to the RFP. I think last year we said that grass shall not exceed 4 inches in height. We revised that to 3 inches. Because we just wanna make sure that, you know, the contractor stays on top of that and, you know, 3 inches is really pushing them, you know, the limit. And so we made that change, and then we basically took out the language where, you know, 7 to 14 days and just said mostly 3 inches. But we just say that we expect that during the peak mowing season, that'll have to be done every 7 days to meet that 3 inch requirement. But then as the season changes and if it gets really dry, they obviously, you know, can do it less than every 7 days. And Don mentioned too, there were some areas, you know, in the past that would be burned, or even last summer that were burned and didn't need to be mowed at all, but. You know, the contractor was going over it and just says that, you know, we might be able to specify an area that they can leave alone because it doesn't need to be, you know, on or. And I got thinking too, if there's an area that's excessively wet, you probably don't want the mowers going through and tearing anything up, so it's just saying, look, we can kind of guide some of this to stay out of some areas that just don't need to be worked on at some given time.
You also put, an alternate,
Yep.
bid.
Yeah, and so on the bid form. So in the cover letter, so the first page is the cover letter. And on the beginning of the second page. I added just an extra bid proposal that they could put in if they want. Says, you know, we want everybody to bid on, you know, all the cemeteries, but then we added bidders are invited to include a bid alternate for the price of performing all the work specified in the scope, excluding maintenance of village cemetery. The bid alternate must be in addition to a bid for maintenance of all cemeteries and will not be considered as a standalone. So, you know, just in case we wanted to know what somebody, you know, say all the bids come in really high, but. You know, we would have the ability to look at, okay. If somebody just excluded that one cemetery, what the bid would be, knowing that there's probably, we'd still be capable of gearing up to do that one cemetery, you know, given that we wouldn't have all of them. And I think that's based on you being aware of people that would be available, you know, to come in and work this season, so that's something we're inviting them to do in addition to proposing to maintain all of them.
I think that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Yes. Hurts in any way.
Not at all. Who's the one that's gonna communicate with them about, yes, go ahead, mow, or no, stay away in the section?
It'd be the second, or done.
It'd be under the direction of me too.
Perfect, good.
And one of the things, one of the other reasons for the alternate bid is that I think we got the capability, but visibility. That village cemetery, I don't know if anybody goes down there when you go to the dump, there's always people there,
Yeah.
the most visibility, so. I was getting 8 to 20 calls a week, complaints. And Jim originally didn't want to deal with it because he was originally the one getting all the complaints and felt like he didn't have the power to control anything.
Yeah.
So I started, he wanted me to see the number of complaints that we were getting. And it's basically based on visibility. You know, there's people that go down to get lunch. Pete Snow used to say, look at the trash can. They'd have the section 3 times a week taking a trash barrel down to the transfer station because people would have to eat their lunch, throw all the trash in.
Yeah.
So it's highly visible and everybody's there. And that's
Yeah.
the one that I think we get 99% of the complaints on.
All right. Any other questions or comments on resolution 2522? Hearing none, I sense we're ready to vote. All those in favor of resolution 2522, please signify by saying aye.
I,
All those opposed, say no. Ayes have it, resolution 2522 passes. Moving on to resolution 2523.
Resolved that the town council approve the 2025 through 2026 budget calendar.
Look for a motion from the council.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2523.
second,
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments from the audience? Any questions or comments from the council? Yeah, sorry, Jack.
I'd
Go
just
ahead.
say that I really just took last year's budget kind of groupings and kind of recycled them and tried to really target the heavy lifting in the month of April, just to not be in a situation where we're spilling into June too far. If, you know, we'd still have those weeks if we needed them, but the calendar would actually let us get things wrapped up before Memorial Day. And if not, you still got a little bit of, got a few weeks of breathing room before the end of the fiscal year, so.
Yeah.
It's gonna make for a busy March, to get everything ready to put in front of you April 1st, but, I'd rather, you know, do that and then have, not be pressed on the other end, so.
Yeah.
Thinking behind it.
Yep. And, yeah, kind of rearranged it so that things that might take a little longer for us will be on council, will be on off council meeting nights, so we won't be here until 9 or 10, hopefully. So yeah, it looked good to me. Are there any other questions or comments from the council or the audience? Hearing none, it says we're ready to vote. All those in favor of resolution 2523, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2523 passes. Moving on to item 10, discussion items. Are there any comments or topics that the audience has this evening? None? Moving on to councilor comments. Pete?
No comment today.
Excellent. Thank you, Pete. Natalia?
No comments.
No comment. Eric?
No comment. Can I mention one thing? I meant to.
No, actually. We're trying to get out. No.
I just wanted to mention, when we were talking about all the resolutions for the tax commitment, that you have the forms here. I just wanted to point out that the mill rate for this 6-month commitment came out at 9.5. I think that might have been a little lower than what was maybe talked about earlier. And one of the things that goes into this is figuring out the schedule for the school assessments and making sure that the timing is right on those, and then the county assessment. So we accounted for the county assessment in the last tax amendment. The next county, the county assessment will be in the next 12 months. So the reason why I believe it came in probably a little bit lower than you might have estimated is because we just didn't have a county piece of the assessment to be in the 6-month period. So I just want to point that out. Someone asked you on, what the mill rate is for this 6-month period. It's 9.5.
Good to know.
Yeah, which, yeah, and it's not exactly half, but it's.
Yeah, it's less than half actually, but
Right.
mostly because we just don't have all the assessments hitting this period.
Yeah, excellent. And, yeah, my close, I guess, next meeting, we'll have to get with Sherry Littlefield, but I think they're gonna be presenting to the council their budget, I believe, either the next one or the following one. One of the next 2 meetings they'll be presenting, so that'll time up nice. We'll kind of know what the school's gonna be, and that'll help us figure out our budget.
Have you met her yet, Jack?
Spoken on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, we can coordinate that, Jack. And figure out when she wants to meet. So I think there's some other things she wanted to talk about, so. In addition to that, have we heard any updates on the audit? I know we haven't got a debrief from the 2022 audit, but I think they were gonna do the 2022 and 2023 at the same time. Is the 23 done yet? or-
We have the 2022 done.
Yeah.
2023 is still in progress.
Still, okay.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of time frame on that, or?
I don't have one from the auditor.
Yeah.
I can get a handle on what he's, what he's focused on right now, or what he wants to be waiting on.
Yeah, I was just curious if there's anything within the last few years that are in those audits that are something that would be helpful for us going forward, if he knows, if there's anything he wanted to highlight, or, because we haven't had we typically have debriefs from him year after year after year, and we haven't had one.
Yeah.
In quite a few years, so.
Yeah.
Based on the timing, hopefully we can maybe have 2022 and 2023 at the same time. But that would be,
Do they do the debrief in person? I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, he comes
Usually
and
they come in and do.
talks and kind of explain an audit. I'm not an
That'd be
auditor,
helpful.
so it's a little, so he kind of points out what you should look at, how we're looking, the fund balance, which is important. We haven't
Yep.
really had a good idea of where that is. I think it's pretty healthy, but it would certainly help
To know, for sure.
going forward, so. And I think that's all I had. Look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.